na Wameru na Waembu. Kura ya kunitoa njera haitawekwa na kutairishwa. Orudo rudo itagia goma joma. No orudo gaikia kura. That's what Kenyatta said. If somebody can interpret it for you, Your Excellency. Oru na nemoraiwa niguo kwathira na aria moy niguo gwathire. Eske macharia ni jwe no history. Na dunia meha hothe na George Mo ni jwe ni owe. Ati Kenyatta no wa coinire. He coined and it is spread all over the country like wildfire to the Kikuyus, Meru and Embu. Kwa kutairi sio kutakaoweka kura kwa debe, sio kutakaomtoa Kenyatta kwa jera, ni umoja wa wananchi. Mumushike Raila, mumushike Odinga, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Mukae na yeye, mumusikize, musikie James Gishoro, musikie viongozi wote kina Dr. Mongali, kina Tomboya, mukiongozwa na Odinga anayenipigania, mjue ya kwamba kutairi hakutanitoa jera. Kitakachonitoa jera ni umoja wenu wa Kenya. Kweli bana, kweli. It is history that is clearly known. Then my question, very simple, is wazee walipigania uhuru, nika mwisho tulipata uhuru. Watu walienda Lancaster House wakiongozwa na kina Tomboya, kina James Gishoro. Baba yake Raila, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, alikatazwa kwenda Lancaster House. Kwa nini alikatazwa kwenda Lancaster House? Jaramogi alikatazwa kwenda Lancaster House because they knew he was going to interfere so much with the constitution making in London as he fought for Kenyatta. Akaambiwa hataenda huko, na hakuenda. Wacha tuseme alikuwa saa yote mzungu, mtu anashika shingo, alikuwa ni Jaramogi Oginga Odinga asimtetee Kenyatta. But Jaramogi aliendelea. Wakati wazee walienda Lancaster House, ninyi wenyewe mnajua katiba iliyokuja Kenya haikuwa katiba ya KANU, hata ingawa ninyi mlikuwa na nguvu kama KANU. Katiba iliyokuja Kenya ilikuja katiba ya KADU, kwa sababu KADU ilikuwa na nguvu kwa sababu ya nguvu ya mbeberu. Lakini ilipofika hapa, unajua kabisa bado Kenyatta alikuwa anawasiliana na Jaramogi. Walitembea uwanjani kuwalaki walipokuwa akirudi, lakini Jomo akasema katiba ambayo imefika ni katiba ya Wakenya, hapana ya KADU au KANU. Wakaingia Kenya. Walipoingia Kenya, ndugu zangu, wakaanza mambo ya ushindano. KANU na KADU wakaenda kwa debe. Na waambie ndugu zangu, isipokuwa ni Jaramogi Oginga Odinga akawashika Wajaluo, akawashika wengine waliokuwa na ungana na hawa, mzee Kenyatta alikuwa jela. Wale ambao walikuwa na hapa hakuwa na uwezo kama wa Kenyatta, lakini Jaramogi alikuwa na uwezo mwingi sana. Walipokwenda kupiga kura, KANU ikashinda. The first prime minister akawa mzee Jomo Kenyatta. My question, ndugu yangu deputy wa Mount Kenya Foundation, wewe ni mtu umeona vile mmefanya kazi nyingi na wazee hapa ambao wako hapa. Kama Kenyatta hangekuwa the first prime minister, the language you talk today, you'll never talk it. The money our young people are being given there to betray themselves, not betraying their fathers or their country, but they are betraying themselves. Hawangekuwa wakipata. The geographical spread, ninyi ndugu zetu wa Mount Kenya, the geographical spread you have in this country, hamungekuwa naye. Biashara kuingia Nairobi, wakati ule tulikuwa vijana, tulikuwa tunajua. Biashara ambazo mko nazo Nakuru, Eldoret, Kitale, Mombasa, hata Kisumu kwenu mzee Raila. Si mimi nakujanga huko. Mimi najua mahali mengi 800. Hamungekuwa naye. The first prime minister alisaidia kazi ikawa sawa. The first prime minister alisaidia Kenya kupata uhuru tukawa vile tulivyo sasa. Hiyo ilikuwa ni daraja Mwenyezi Mungu alijenga, akasema Kenya itavukia hapa ndio mpate uhuru ambao mko nao sasa, na uhuru ambao ninyi wenyewe are really enjoying. Whether you come from Kikuyu community or Mount Kenya or Luo community or from whatever community, all of us are enjoying the freedom and the liberty our forefathers gave us. If it were not for that unity, where would we be by now? We would be having Rift Valley kama Zimbabwe, White Highlands, native land ya wazungu. We would be having the coffee land in Central Region, ikiwa the coffee land of the white wazungus. Lakini wale wazee wawili wakajisacrifice. Hiyo ndio historia. Nikiendelea mbele kidogo, so sitaki wakaisha sana. Nataka kumkumbuke ya kwamba wakati wa vyama vingi mlijua vile iliendelea. Kulianzishwa mambo ya upinzani inaleta nini, mambo yakawa mabaya sana. Watu walikwisha Rift Valley. I don't want to tell you because you all know it. I was a member of parliament, a very vocal member of parliament. Anybody knows. And I want to say, James Orenga, were you not my witness that I was near that? And even Baba, si tulikuwa naye bunge. Tuliona mimi sikuwa mtu ya kucheza. Mambo ilikuwa mbaya kabisa. Na saa nyingi Orengo alikuwa akiniambia, don't tell anybody the way you travel. Just walk out, let nobody know how you go home. I remember Orengo asking me, don't ever leave Nairobi after 3 p.m. Uwe ukienda wakati unaonekana mchana, ukigongwa unajulikana uligongwa. And you were tested many times. He knows. He got me from jail many times. Wakati ule mnakumbuka, watu walikufa wengi, vita vikawa vingi, vikasemekana ni wapinzani wanaleta. You all know who did that kind of dirty game on Kenya to destroy Kenya. Mimi naona gavana ambaye ninampenda sana anaitwa Oparanya hapa. Oparanya, be honest. What happened to Mitaitai farm which belonged to Waluya upande ule? What happened? You know it. Don't tell them. If they want it, they can wanaweza kudig history. Professor Ongeri nimuona hapa. I saw you. You have been victims. Your people have been victims of the same people with the Kikuyus in Rift Valley. Say the truth. When we all know all these things, we've witnessed all these things, we understood all these things, we tend to be burying our heads in the sand. We don't want to say the truth. Let us stand up and say, hata kama ni miaka ingine 20 au 30 wakae kando, wengine waingia kwa uongozi. Because they did it. Whom have they not touched? Whom have they not touched? Wamasai mmekuwa hapa. Ninyi wenyewe, tell me about your Transmara. What happened to Transmara? I know the boundaries of Transmara. I know where people used to plant a lot of maize there. What transpired during that time? Mulipoteza, and it is true, mulipoteza. That's why I'm saying, unless Kenyans want to blind themselves, unless Kenyans want to make themselves deaf, unless na wengine mambo yakawa moto sana. Mzee wetu nimpenda sana, alikuwa anaitwa Nyachai, nimpenda Nyachai for your information. There's a lot of good things he did in Rift Valley for all communities. I know him. When I say I liked him, I liked him. Mlipoingia katika siasa ngumu sana, mukaingia siasa ngumu. Let's be very honest. Honorable Raila, it's only because maybe you don't like to tell people what you did. Hamukuwa marafiki na wajumbe wengi. Watu wengi waliona wewe unaonekana sasa unaanza kukataa maneno. You are now bulldozing. People walimuita yani bulldozer. Lakini akasema hatutaliokoa taifa kama kuokoa taifa ni tugawanyike vile vyama vingi kama vile Ford Asili, Ford Kenya na vyama vingine mlipogawanyika mkaenda uchaguzini tukashindwa. I'm seeing the same thing going to happen here. We are going to perpetuate that same leadership. Raila, wewe mwenyewe, God knows, ukaenda ukasema Kibaki tosha. Were you not another bridge? The same community coming to build a new bridge again to rescue Kenya. The other day, when it almost collapsed, when somebody was planning kuona ya kwamba rais wetu anapigiwa kura ya kukosa imani, wewe mwenyewe ukasimama mbele handshake, hiyo kura ikapotea tena, hapo ukaokoa. Mwenyezi Mungu, let me tell you, wa Kikuyu na Wameru na wale wengine, mimi najua leo ni wa Kikuyu wako hapa, lakini mbu iko sema tu jambo ambalo mimi nataka kulisema na ukweli ujulikane, uongo uwekwe kando, kwa sababu siku za mwisho za Mwenyezi Mungu ukweli utawekwa pale, uongo uwekwe pale, tuone ni nini kitakachoushinda. Rais alikuwa anataka awekewe a vote of no confidence. Vote of no confidence by the same person he assisted from where he came. Lakini Mungu ni mwema, mlipoungana Kenya inaendelea. Mabarabara yamejengwa, mambo yamejengwa, na nisiposahau, kwa sababu naweza kusema mengi kuhusu historia, mjue kuna historia ambayo tunasahau, na ndio kwa nini wa Kenya tunazidi kuingia ndani ya shida kwa sababu ya ukabila usio na maana. You remember when Endorsing was struck? Honorable Raila, I was with you in parliament. Honorable Odinga, I was with you in parliament. When Endorsing was struck, I was the first person to go to Endorsing. After I was called, akukuwa na hii simu hii mambo ya mobile, ni upigiwe simu ukiwa Moro, uanze safari na gari, uingie Naivasha, uanze kwenda, na tulipoingia Endorsing vile tulikuta police na vile walitufanya. But we became fighters also. We fought our way out and we went up to Endorsing. Tukakuta Father Kaiza, ile mzungu father alikufa, na wengine mafadha wengine, na tabu ambayo tulikuta huko. Nilirudi kufika Nairobi, tukamuita Mheshimiwa Muturi Kigano kama hivyo, lakini wajumbe waliondoka. Muturi Kigano tulikuwa na wewe, Mwita tulikuwa na wewe, Imanya tulikuwa na wewe, Jenga Karume tulikuwa na wewe, na viongozi ambao tuliungana. Tukakimbia mara moja nilipowaambia ninyi vile ilivyo. Tukaenda kwa Kiari wa Njoki hapa, magunia 100 ya unga tukaweka karori. Tukasema lazima tuende Endorsing. Tulipoenda Endorsing, wale viongozi walipokuja na ushuhuda ambao nilikuwa nimepeleka bunge, Mzee Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Bwana SK, it is true what I'm saying, the Hansard can bear me witness. Mzee Jaramogi Oginga Odinga akasema we must adjourn parliament. He was an old man, but he trusted some of us. We must adjourn parliament. If this is what has happened, 20 people have died within hours, and even some people shot, some people na buduki, hapana mkuki au mshale. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga aka-adjourn parliament. That whole afternoon we discussed matters of national importance. Serikali ikawekwa kwa mkeka, and the following day committees were formed to go to Endorsing to see whether we alleged was true or not true, and it was found it was true. Kwa hivyo mumesaidiana, lakini wakati mzungu aliona mmefaulu na kushinda, alijaribu juu chini, mzungu akiwa Ulaya tu, ako Kenya hata saa hii, akaweka a wedge between a Luo and a Kikuyu. Because you are only seen when the country gets into a crisis. When you remove it, then you are forgotten, we are forgotten, you go your way, we go our way. Let us try to go one way this time round, to save Kenya, to save Kenya, so that Kenya can become a newborn Kenya. We resuscitate the spirit of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta na Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Uhuru ni Kenyatta, wewe ni Jaramogi. Jia walivyopitia tupitishieni tuone kama maafa ambao tuko nayo, kama haya tunaona hapa. Na mimi naona huyu ambaye mmekaa na yeye, Governor Muridi, if I'm told to talk about tribal clashes, how they are organized, how they end up, and what happens, you on your way home. Not unless these people, all of these people save you. They want to disenfranchise those people so that you have no votes in Laikipia na wajumbe wengine. Hiyo ndio inafanyikaga. So mambo mnaona Laikipia si ati ni ajali, si ati ni ng'ombe inaibiwa. Kwani miaka hiyo yote hakukuwa na ng'ombe ya kuibiwa? Kwani hakukuwa na biashara ya ng'ombe? Kwani mabuduki makubwa mao mnaona hakukuwa na hiyo mabuduki? Find out where is that money buying that buduki inatoka wapi?
Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
And I want to allege anybody can take me anywhere. No. I still question 15 billion Equity Mulikana hamukutoa. Mwenye kutoa alisema alitoa. Mbele miaka ya mbele niwaambieni ninyi watu walikuwa wanapata training kutoka Transmara, wanapata Doinet, wanapata Mount Elgon. Mount Elgon ya Kenya hapana ya Uganda. Who knows what is happening in Laikipia is the same training grounds that have been revived with that money to come and do the damage it is now doing for Kenya. God bless you. Let me say not more than that, but I wish I had more time to say the history you either know or don't know. Thank you.
Lest you forget, Mheshimiwa, thank you very much. Let's give him a bigger clap. It is worth the time that he took, and it's good that you put us into the mood and the perspective. Our next speaker, Your Excellency, will be a businessman by his own right, who has been with you and has been with the member of the community for a long time, and none other but Dr. S.K. Macharia. Please, S.K. And S.K., we want to thank you for your offer today for us being on there as we speak. So we want to thank you and appreciate you. You know what you mean to this community. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to take as much time as Jenga. But what he has said is true. We just like to forget things. And the few words I'm going to say, I was recruited in Kenya government, and I have Joe Kibe there, is my witness, from America by the government of lost this country. So we know that. Jagat has talked about 1991, 92, we know all about it, some of us. The young people may not know. When we almost lost the country, and lost the mountain, by the way. Almost lost the mountain from where Kenyanjui comes from, up. Governor Kenyanjui, the one I'm referring to. After 2017, again, we almost lost the country. Our president, President Uhuru, you remember, he was sworn in. Was he not sworn in? And if the president is sworn in, he's the commander-in-chief. There is nobody who can play around with that government. And some people dared. Led by my friend here, but I was talking to him. You know, some people dared. And they almost I know Olengo, where is Olengo? James. We were together in Young Turks when we were being beaten by, I'm sure you are going to explain him what I have just said. Some people dared him. But he has that instinct of his father, the love of this country. Somebody with the sword went to look for somebody meddling around somewhere. He found him and told him, let's not tear this country that was left by our father to all of us, among us, and two of us were among us, among Kenyans. That's how the handshake came. Without President Uhuru, there would have been no handshake. We salute him. That handshake, we will ask him to leave it to good hands so that it can continue. The noise we are hearing around, those who don't know Kenya politics, and we know it in and out, Akina George Moho, even if you see them quiet here, Akina Kaguthi, Akina Ede Joroge, we have worked together. We know Kenya politics well. We believe President Uhuru Kenyatta will leave this country in good hands, the hand he went to look for, to shake hands. For this country does not need anything else. If he's going to come and allow corruption to continue in this country, believe me or not, that young man who spoke here so nicely and really touched my heart, because I know I started when I was very young. See, I told you I was recruited in 1978, I was 68. I was young. If I was 70, I'm 78 now. You can now deduct and find out my age. Yeah. Because we are given opportunities, all you need is to give Kenyans, young people, the opportunity. And if you promise them that you eliminate corruption, because there is no any other problem, if we are not corrupt, if we are not going to steal tax money, and the president has told us we are losing to go, said 1/3 of the budget of this country goes to corruption, goes to private people's pockets. If that money, if you do not allow, there is somebody who was being interviewed the other day on Citizen TV with PRO, and the other one is called Mluka, and he said, Kenyans today, and I heard the young man say, give us jobs. Go to government jobs, they look for government jobs to go and make money. Make sure the government that comes next time to save our young people, to save our country, to develop our country, does not allow those who go to government offices to make money. Those young people will be able to make money because money will be available in government. And by the way, what has been stolen, because that's what we are running around, that's why we are campaigning, otherwise the president would have had it over without much of a problem. See our pesa too. Sina campaign. And I left my father and my mother and my to pay for my school fees. And I told you I was recruited to come and given a job to transfer land from Wazungu in Agriculture Development Corporation.
Rais Uhuru aende bila legacy, karibu haribue legacy yake na hiyo shida ambayo alipata ndani ya serikali yake. So we are beginning a long journey. The train has already started and I want to assure you hii train lazima ikamilishe mwendo. Hatutakubali iende alafu ikwame hapo katikati. So we are also celebrating sons of nationalists, Raila Odinga himself, son of Jaramogi, Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, son of the founding father of this nation. And this is history. These were great history makers, great leaders. And as we heard in the morning, great leaders invite fellowships, very effective fellowships. Kwa hivyo nataka kutoa hiyo shukrani kubwa sana. Jana wakati tumeenda pale Mlimani, nataka kutoa shukrani kubwa sana kwa Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga. He was very courageous. Wengine wetu tulikuwa na maji kidogo, hatukujua exactly what will happen, but we knew it will be well. Watu wengi hawajui psyche ya watu ya Mount Kenya, lakini wakati tuliingia huku, baba alikuwa very brave. He had very good agenda. His economic blueprint na blueprint yetu kama celeb magavana wa Mount Kenya, sisi 10 of us, inafuatana, inaandamana. The transformation of the economy of this block ni kitu ambacho alieleza wananchi na walifurahi sana. But because I don't want to take a lot of time, very quickly I want to say that we must then change the narrative. Sisi najua tumekuja hapa, tumekura yes, tumekaribishwa na MKF, but we must change the narrative. Sisi kazi yetu hapo awali ilikuwa ni kuharibu jina ya baba na kupiga yeye na kumharibia jina na kumuita ile majina yote ambao sitaki kurudia, hata rais mwenyewe alisema ile majina. So the time has come because we must be honest with ourselves, turudi mashinani, tuambie wananchi hii ilikuwa ni siasa ya ushindi, lakini tukawadu some things, tukaharibu jina yake hapa na pale. So ziwa na asali na viazi na kahawa na tea, sisi tungependa Mheshimiwa Raila wakati utafika, najua utakuja kuongea hapa na tumeona manifesto yako, the draft ambao ulituongea jana wakati tulipeana statement, mambo ya value chain, vitu zetu ambao tunakuza, kukosa market, kukosa industries. Potatoes zetu tunatoa potato South Africa na Egypt, yet farmers in Nyandarua County or Kiambu or Nakuru can grow those potatoes that are eaten here. Why should we import potatoes of all the things? Why can't we revive the industries in the Mount Kenya? Ajua hiyo agenda ni kitu ambacho tumeongea, kwa hivyo sitaki kurudia, ili pia magavana wengine. The numbering environment ambao Mheshimiwa Macharia ameongea, kumekuwa na shida kubwa wakati mwingine. I thought Mheshimiwa Macharia ungeongea vile mashini zako zilipigwa wakati mmoja, wakati ulikuwa unaanzisha hivi system yako, wakati huo nakumbuka hizo mashini zako tabu ambao ulikuwa naye. Na we would like a leader who comes and creates. Sisi ni watu wa kufanya biashara na tungependa policies ambazo ni friendly. Yes, you have talked very well, accountability for taxes. In fact, Mheshimiwa Kibaki when he came in, alishika tax ya nchi yetu na kuona kwamba wizi umeisha. This country is very prosperous. This country don't need to get money from abroad, that tax itself alone inatosha at least kuendesha nchi na vile alitoa hata international capital katika budget yetu. So if we manage this country well, and that's what we are looking for, a leader who comes and manages this country well, na tuweze kuendelea mbele, I think we shall have been able to see what we saw, you moving the economy from -7% to 7.3% in 2007 within just about 4 years. Tupigie Prime Minister makofi na Rais Mzee Kibaki na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta akiwa treasury, and they make government a very, very beautiful pair. So hii mambo inawezekana kuamsha Kenya yetu na kuendelea mbele, ni mambo inawezekana. Na sisi kama magavana, all we are saying, please support our value chains, support uchumi wetu, industries zetu, markets both local and international. I think the women came out very well. The youth of this country, they have given the agenda and we support them. The issue of equity, the lack of equity in the block and the distribution of resources. Unakuta MCA Aloiro, 500 people, and a county has less than 200,000 people. So an MCA has more than a county, but he only gets, almost equal to what an MCA gets. But that county gets much more. Just like Nyandarua County, one MCA has more people than. I think those inequalities in the vitu ambazo tumeongea na Prime Minister, just touching them as I finish up. The issue of distribution of power and resources, the appointments in the block is something that we have already shared with the Prime Minister yesterday when we discussed with him yesterday. And then lastly, the issue of his entry into Mount Kenya is something that we like to, and that's why we are called in this meeting. Can we also become partners with the Prime Minister as he enters the block? Please, let's work with him to make sure that it becomes easier to work together. So nataka kutoa shukrani kwa hayo. The issue of security has been said very, very clearly. I think the issue of life security, of life and property is something that I would like to also underpin. That came out very, very, very well. Kwa hivyo asanteni sana kwa kuweza kunisikiza, na nataka kupatia magavana ambao wako hapa nafasi pia waseme kidogo, one by one. Tawarika in any order. Nianze mimi na mheshimiwa, sijui kama Oparanya labda utapatiwa nafasi mahali ingine. I know is one of our governors. Nafikiri atapatiwa nafasi na mheshimiwa Prime Minister. Mr. Murithi, maybe I can start with you, then followed by mheshimiwa Nyoro, and lastly bwana gavana wetu wa Nakuru Kinyanjui. Just 1 minute each, alafu tumalize. Asante.
Thank you.
Sanitize it for you.
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Governor Kimemia. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the Second President of the Republic of Kenya, my colleague governors, our senior business leaders, MKF directors, Senator Orengo, all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I thought you've just had lunch. Good afternoon. Weka bidii kidogo. I have just about 4 points to make, and I have 2 minutes, so let me be very quick about it. First point was already raised by the Honorable Nyokabi about political violence, and I think Mheshimiwa Mungai has repeated it. And it is true, people are using political violence as a strategy for voter suppression. It is happening right now in Olmoran. We have lost 10 people in about 3 weeks. And we need your assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, we do. I mean, government has sent police and so on, and we are trying to cope with it. We are building new police stations, but we need resources to build them. And the police officers themselves will require vehicles and other things. So I hope MKF, as you look into the things that are to be done, it is true that that is happening right now in Olmoran. It has been used before. I think in the election of 1997, nearly 60 people were massacred one day in a similar strategy. And we must overcome this. So I suggest myself, I may not quite want to go in the direction of the Honorable Jenga Mungai. They are bandits, both political and criminal bandits.
who are terrorizing a community. In this particular instance, Kisis and Kikuyus who live there are being targeted. But I would not want us to profile a whole community and say, I would rather we say the truth. There are some political bandits who are using young men. But I leave it there because it is not really the subject of today. But we need assistance. And I want to thank Governor Lee, Governor Nyoro, Governor Kimemia, because they were the first responders in supporting my effort and the effort of the national government to bring this situation under control. My second point, those of you who enjoy mountain climbing, and he was a very good friend of the Right Honorable Prime Minister, you know that the base of mountain climbing is Nanyuki and Narumoro. So perhaps in a very retro manner, the Prime Minister then started the journey to climb Mount Kenya from Nanyuki and from Narumoro. But it was not the only thing that he came to do. We, the four governors and a number of other business leaders, met with the Prime Minister to take a dive into what is our economy. This question was put to me by Eddie Joroge and MG Waweru about a year and a half ago. What is this economy? And so we went to look at the numbers and found out that it is a 2.7 trillion economy. Between here, Kiambu and Meru, between Tharaka Nithi and Nakuru, 2.7 trillion shillings. In dollar terms, it is $27 billion. What surprised Eddie is that it is a bigger economy than Mauritius. Because Mauritius, as a country in Africa, is taken as, the crown jewel of what economies should be. What surprised Eddie and MG Waweru was that it is a bigger economy than Botswana. It's a bigger economy than Rwanda. Just those 10 counties. And so some months ago when we made this presentation back to the business leaders, they then asked us, who is in that economy? Who is responsible for these uchumi? So we went to look and we found nearly 3 million business people, micro and small businesses, many of whom spoke here. 3 million micro and small businesses power that economy. That is the 4th largest economy in East Africa. That is bigger than 34 different African countries. Bigger than 34 different African countries. So the Prime Minister himself asked us a question. Therefore, what must be done? And one of the reasons he came to Nanyuki was to take a look at some work we've been doing there in support of micro businesses. Like what? And Solomon spoke to it. I think it was Solomon. He asked for a 25 billion shilling stimulus package. The Prime Minister wanted to see, because in Laikipia we have a 3 billion stimulus package for just Laikipia, peke yake. So if we are going to scale it up to national, Solomon, actually it's about 150 billion shillings in stimulus to micro and small businesses. That is what we need to do. I think he had been told by Dr. S.K. Macharia, allow me to tell you a secret at Citizen. And on my way out, I met with Dr. Macharia and he said, I said, I was talking about micro business. He said, come and explain. So I explained to him that there are some young men who make a tuk-tuk in Nyahururu. He whipped out his checkbook and paid 450,000 shillings and became the first customer of the BJ50 tuk-tuk. Put your hands together for Dr. Macharia. We are about to deliver it to him. We are waiting for him to tell us the appropriate ceremony to celebrate this. It was a journey of 2 years because of regulatory hurdles. Because of regulatory hurdles. For instance, we have a system in Kenya that runs the transport, whatever. It's called the Transport Integrated Management System. For you to register a unit, it requires you to show a customs entry. Meaning, the system has been built with the belief that all motor vehicles are going to be imported. And these are the things that we want to change so that these micros can thrive. So the Prime Minister wanted to see, okay, let me see what you're doing. So he had a few SMEs come around and show him some of the things that they're making. And he, in fact, bought one of the machines, not the tuk-tuk, he bought a machine to mill and make feeds and so on for livestock. We hope he's also going to buy a BJ 50. I'm 1 minute from closing. Just 1 minute from closing. And I want to then talk to the point that Dr. Macharia said, that we work. Who are we as Mount Kenya? We work and we value our work. And I want to explain it like this. You know, and you can help me answer, Uncle George. Mukami ekagatia. The name Mukami. Ekagatia. Nego kamaga. Gideji ekagatia. Emushiri ekagatia. Emuri ekagatia. Yes. Our names, we are proud of ourselves for working. We call ourselves the trades that we are in. I want to explain my last point, which I'm sure Uncle George and Chairman Munga know. The name Kibaki is a trade. My grandfather's name is Getu. The reason he was called Kibaki is because he was the biggest tobacco merchant in that side of the Aberdare. That is why he was called Kibaki. We value the work that we do. And therefore, our conversation with the Prime Minister is about scaling up that support, as Solomon was asking, to small businesses. Our conversation amongst ourselves is removing barriers so that small businesses have access. Like the tuk-tuk in Nyahururu should be able to be sold in Nakuru and Meru and Tharaka Nithi without additional taxation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mheshimiwa Raila said Kibaki tosha. So I ask you, Mount Kenya, what do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Governor. Let me just indulge on the governors. As I said earlier, the Right Honorable will have time with the governors of this region, courtesy of Mount Kenya Foundation. So please, let's bear in mind that time is really ran, and we have yet to listen to our main, chief guest. So please, bear with me, the governors, be as short as possible, brief as possible. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Prime Minister. The guests, all protocols observed. I think I'll probably talk half of the time that Murithi has talked. I'm not so sure what else you can say after what Murithi has elucidated. But let me start by recognizing my Deputy Governor who is here, Joyce, and I know there are other Deputy Governors. Maybe you can start so that I'm not discriminated, that I only stood my Deputy Governor. There we have three Deputy Governors there. Thank you very much, and God bless. Mine is going to be very short, and I'll start it this way. I'm very happy to have been part of the team that did the triumphant entry into Nairobi. It's ironical because we thought we would do triumphant entry into Mount Kenya, but we started with Mount Kenya and we ended up doing a triumphant entry with Baba in Nairobi. And if there was anybody who could doubt that Jesus made triumphant entry in Nazareth, then see what happened yesterday. So I'm really happy and pleased that we made that triumphant entry. Secondly, I would want to say that a lot has been said, but I would want to use the computer language just to make it simple. What His Excellency the President has done, which was a follow-up of the implementation of Vision 2030, which I happen to have been involved in its formulation, it's largely to create the hardware. And we have had this discussion. This country now is at a point, you cannot have adequate hardware, but we are at a point where we are having sufficient hardware. What we are looking for is the software. And the software is the stimulus package that gets the young people into doing the jobs. The software is that which makes the farmer in Gatundu North, a place called Kamwangi, produce milk, and within 10 minutes, that milk is processed and sold in Thika because the road is good. It is the software. And Your Excellency, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, yours will largely be software. Because that's what this country needs in order to start an economic transformation. And we can talk more about that. What we also would want to say is that the biggest gift that you and your colleagues did or gave to this country was the Constitution 2010. And with it came devolution. And we can see every corner of this country has changed because of that second liberation, the Constitution. What we are asking for is defending devolution. We would want devolution defended. And if not just defending devolution, but making sure that you have more confidence in devolution. Get more money to the counties. Let counties have the problem of accountability, but get more money to the counties. Let the national government work closely with the county governments, because that's the way that person, doesn't matter whether it's Mount Kenya or wherever else, they will be able to feel the government. I'll just talk about one issue, which again, as you can see, I just talked about the hardware and talked about the software and how easily we can fit into the software. But I would also want to say, Your Excellency, that we need to rethink, and I know there has been a bit of discussions about the economic models, but instead of going to economic models, we agreed yesterday that we are going to go direct to Anjiko and do things, projects. But I also want to challenge economists in this country because they are there. When misconceptions are being made about economic development, where are you? Those of us who have read books like Michael Todaro and Lipsey and the others, we all know the difference between different economic models. I want to simplify our development economic model by saying we need to slice the growth of our GDP. What is the contributor of our GDP? When we say our GDP is growing by 5 or 6%, what is contributing to the 5 or 6%? For as long as agriculture and manufacturing are not contributing to that GDP, there is not going to be jobs. There is not going to be sufficient food. There is not going to be cheap food that enables our manufacturing sector to become competitive. Yes, service industry is good, finances are good, yes, the banking is good, and it will contribute to our 5%. But as long as manufacturing and agriculture are not doing well, the thing is we have to unpack our GDP. And we are not alone. It is an African-wide problem. We have to unpack our GDP, pump more natural competitiveness. Those are things that we have not talked about, and I would want the economists of this country to come up. We talk about these things. I don't know why we have only 2 or 3 economists talking and the rest are quiet. I think we also have to think very seriously about whether we are going to lead an export or an import-led economy. Sorry to say, Your Excellency, today this country is spending 30% imported, wheat 80% imported, rice 75% imported, sugar 60%. What are we talking about? We are exporting wealth and importing poverty. Let's look at our agricultural sector. We've lost the competitive advantage of our tea, coffee, and other exports. We have to lead an export-led economy, one that makes sure that we conserve our money within here. So, Baba, we are ready. The triumphant entry yesterday, followed by today, we want a bigger thing tomorrow. This train left the station. God bless you.
Asante sana Governor Kinyanjui.
Say the two issues I wanted to mention. Allow me to recognize our deputy governors who have not been recognized, and I'm duly. They have been recognized. Okay, I had been told by the organizers. Thank you. So quickly, I want just to go to two issues. One, I want to congratulate the former Prime Minister for launching the Azimio la Umoja Clarion. And I say this because if there's anything that our country needs today is the unity. I personally come from a place where I am voted in by every person from this republic. And therefore, when there is peace, and not just peace between one community and the other, peace between all of us and among us, then we all succeed. And therefore, to that extent, I want to congratulate him and to say the way moving forward, all these models we are talking about, all these great things we are talking about will not mean much if we don't unite the country. And I therefore want to join you. You were in Rift Valley, you went to Coast, you went to Western, you went to the mountain. And with respect to the mountain, I also want to confirm that this time around when you went to the mountain, you were successful. But when I was trying to look at mountain climbing, we were also told that you have to acclimatize. You go to the base, acclimatize, then climb. So your 3-day stay at the Nanyuki place made all the difference. And we want to confirm that in the coming days, indeed, we shall be going. And with respect to the Azimio la Umoja, allow me also to say that to join Governor Nderito, who like myself comes from a cosmopolitan county, and to confirm that we have been victims of ethnic profiling. And the worst thing that would happen is also to be also part of what targets others. So we may have a problem with an individual, but never with a community. And I think this Azimio la Umoja is for all Kenyans. And that must be very clear. Even if we differ with a person or with a group of people, it is not for the whole community. So let us work together. And I also want to tell the Mount Kenya community that among all the 43 communities, the community that is in every part of this country is the Mount Kenya community. From Lamu to Turkana to Kisumu and all that. And therefore, the biggest investors in diplomacy, in ensuring that we live at peace with everyone, must be this community. And I want to say, if you look at it in the global arena, the countries like the United States have the highest number of embassies across the whole world because they equally have their people all over the world. So likewise, even for ourselves, we want to live at peace in Tanzania, we want to live at peace in Lamu and all the other places. And I personally say the unity message and clarion must be our message moving forward. Allow me also to say that for a region such as ours, with deep interests in business, in agriculture, and everything, we would definitely want to go to this election not with the option of winning, but winning must be a must. So we cannot participate in this election hoping to win. In the last 20 years, we have mastered the art of winning. Our core business, even in this election, will be to win this election. Yeah? So therefore, even as we listen to all the other people, we don't just want to participate in an election and come and complain thereafter. We want to win, and when we win, we have a stable government for another 5 or 10 years. So the stability before, during, and even after the election is very key. And for me, when I look at all those things, I think my position has already been made. Then allow me also to say something about our country, that our country is not just another African country. We are a very important nation within the region. And as probably has been said, this election is such that the final decision will be made from the mountain. So as we make this decision, we are not just making it for Kenya, we are making it for a very big region. I want to invite you to look at to the west, I think to the east. We have Somalia, we have Ethiopia currently with challenges, we have Southern Sudan, we have many other countries that depend on Kenya. And therefore, the decision you are heading to is not one that can be made casually by the roadsides. Do we want to remain as the champions or the hegemony for the region, or do we want to be relegated to the backyard? So I want to say that we have very, very important decision to make. And this decision is not just for ourselves, but for a bigger region that also relies on us for business. We are now in DRC, we are in many other of our African countries, so let us not take these decisions casually. Then lastly, our decisions, although we are a region, must be based on what is best for Kenya, because there will be no SME policy for one region. There will be no anti-corruption policy for one region. So what is best for Mount Kenya must also be good for Kenya. And therefore I want to say, for me as I make my decision, I'll be very careful to see who will best fight corruption. Because I have studied all nations in the world, and there is no nation that ever prospered with corruption. Where there is corruption, poverty is a natural consequence. You as an individual may succeed, you as an individual may get rich, but as a country you get poorer. So do we want to be rich people in a poor country, or do we want to be in a rich nation where all of us can be able to survive? Kenya has that opportunity, but that will all be based on the decisions that we make in the few coming days. Lastly, I also want to confirm that the diaspora community from the Mount Kenya region is very broad. And one of the areas where our disharmony in the last elections has brought chaos is in Nairobi. If the two of us come together, we shall solve Nairobi. We shall solve the Nairobi leadership crisis. And you can imagine the shame of your capital city really even being taken over by the national government because we could not be able to manage. But I want to assure you, when we come together, when we work together, we can take over the capital. Once we take over the capital, then that is where we have invested, and that is what all those things are going to happen. Lastly, allow me just to confirm that for us leaders, including myself, it is true that depending on our age, we have different priorities. A leader in their 30s, a leader in their 40s, a leader in their 60s. But it is also true, the older you become, the more you are focused on a legacy. Because you are not prepared to prepare a kingdom for another 100 years. Your focus is to leave your grandchildren and your nation in safe hands. May God bless you.
Makofi tena kwa Governor Kinyanjui. Asante. I think Governor, he covered it very well. The issue of the unity of Mount Kenya region is something that we would like to assure the Prime Minister that we are agreeable. We shall make sure that the mountain is together, the east and the west, and we are working as governors to make sure that this happens. I know the governors from the other region, the eastern side met with you. Then we are also meeting from the other side of Mount Kenya. That is something that I would like to assure this meeting, that we are working day and night to make sure that the mountain is not divided the way some people want to divide us, and then be able to control us and to rule us the way they want. I think the other issue that the governors had asked me to also mention is the whole question of completing. Honorable Prime Minister, we should thank the President of this country that is able to even allow succession debate to start, when he's still in office. There are African countries where you cannot even dream that a president is exiting. Even when he's exiting, he still wants to behave as if. But we want to appreciate our president. Tumpigie makofi that he's allowing his own succession to be discussed in broad daylight 1 year to possibly the end of his term. And we want to appreciate him. As governors of the region, Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, please secure his legacy, secure his life and property, secure his family, secure his interests. I think this is something that we cannot pretend about in Africa. And I can assure you, when we took over with Mzee Kibaki, we secured all the interests of the former President Moi, and I know President Uhuru has done the same. And I know, Prime Minister, this is not a big job. It's not a challenge. It's something that you can be able to do. I know some things are difficult to say, but for those of us who have managed succession issues, it's very, very important that we assure that our president will be safe now and also when he exits the office and goes to do other things in the world. So with those few remarks, I would like to tupige magavana makofi maneno mazuri ambao wamesema. Sorry, Deputy Governors, we are not able to say anything, but because governors have talked, I think you can assume that we carried your interests. I want to invite Governor Oparanya and Mheshimiwa Oburu, Dr. Oburu, hata yeye ni baba pia, waje hapa mbele na watafanya kazi fulani, alafu nitaarika Mheshimiwa His Excellency Prime Minister atusalimia. Asanteni sana. Tupige makofi wa kuja. Governor Oparanya, you can take over. Naambia Mheshimiwa Oburu utaongea kwanza. Dr. Oburu. Yes. Oh. Yeah.
Mimi sijui kusema haya lakini kwa majina mimi ni Oburu Oginga Odinga. Mimi ni ndugu ya Raila, mkubwa Raila ananifuata, lakini wengine wanafikiri ati yeye Raila ni mkubwa. Mimi tukifika nyumbani kwa Jaramogi, Oburu ndiye anakalia hiyo kiti ya lakini tukikuja huko, Raila ni kiongozi yetu ya Kenya mzima, sisi tunamheshimu nyumbani. Na mimi nimekuja hapa na marafiki na wandugu wa Raila na watoto wetu. Kwanza wapi Junior Raila? Najua huyo kijana Raila anaitwa Junior. Na kijana yangu pia alikuwa hapa, anaitwa Jaoko Oburu. Na tumekuja na watu wengi wengine, labda Raila atawa introduce, lakini mimi nina machache tu kusema. Hapa tumeitwa na Mheshimiwa Oparanya ambaye ni gavana mkubwa kutoka Kakamega, yeye ataongea, na Honorable James Agre Orengo, Senator. Labda Honorable Governor haku mention jina lake, lakini ni mmoja wetu na yeye atasema one or two things. Sasa mimi I've been really touched by the speeches which have been here since we started. I've been also touched by the events which have happened since yesterday and before, for 3 days. I think there are some actions which speak for themselves. We don't even have to elaborate on what happened, because all Kenyans now know that at least scaling Mount Kenya is not such a difficult thing for Raila, because Raila's hands are clean. Raila, apart from competition here and there, has never committed any offense against the people of Mount Kenya. I think, starting from my father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Jaramogi was introduced into politics by Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. This forum is mainly for business people. And the business people who are here should know that our family is a business family. We are not just politicians. My father was a politician, but his foundation and his beginning was business. Even when Mzee Kenyatta came to fetch him from his work in the late 40s, it was in Luo Thrift and Trading Corporation stores in Maseno. After he had resigned from teaching, he said he wants to make sure that his people can also learn how to turn a shilling into 2. So he started from very humble beginning. And he was teaching the Luos how to collect money, save, borrow, develop, and pay. So that is why it was called Luo Thrift and Trading Corporation. You trade, but you borrow money, you save money, you borrow money, you trade, and you repay. Don't borrow and then you refuse to repay, because that is not business. And Jaramogi did a lot of business. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I can only tell you that Jomo Kenyatta found him and introduced him into politics when he was trading at Maseno stores, and he was trading with the Luo Thrift and Trading Corporation, going all over the country, collecting money from Luos and teaching them how to save and do business. And since then, there were the history is long. My friend Honorable Mungai explained here very long history of what transpired between our two communities, between also all Kenyans, when there was a struggle for the independence of this country. And in our hearts, in Raila's heart of hearts, he's a businessman. He started a business here in Nairobi, which has thrived through all the difficulties, including the years when he was detained, struggling for this country. Raila was detained for more than 8 years. Not because he's a thief, not because he's a criminal, not because he killed anybody, but because he was struggling to change this country and make it better, and make it better for the future of this country. And he put his own life online for this purpose. I'm not saying this because he is my brother. I'm saying this because he did it for all Kenyans, and Kenyans know about it. So here, we don't have to say more. People have been talking about economic models and so on. Some of those models are not for us here now. We have not come here to show our prowess in economic theories. We have come here to tell Kenyans simply what we want to do for them to make this country much better than what we found it. And what has been brought, and which is a structure to trickle down, to make people prosperous, is called devolution. Devolution has brought changes which are revolutionary in the economies of this country. And I can assure you that if revolution is strengthened, it will grow this country from whatever you call it, whether you call it bottoms up, up bottom, or whatever. This country will grow from height to height. Because whatever you are talking about, if you don't create a structure to take those things, whatever the resources you have, down to the people, without a structure, there is no way you are going to tell people that I'm going to develop Mama Mboga. How are you going to develop Mama Mboga without a structure? How are you going to develop people who are doing other bottom up, I mean the lowest ebb of society into the heights of the economy when you don't have a structure to do it? You must create a structure, otherwise you are just creating what is called a handout economy. And people don't want to be given handouts. People want to be enabled and empowered. Empowered to do business, and that is what Raila intends to do. He intends to empower the people of Kenya to do business. And the Mount Kenya people are business people. And I'm sure if you are searching for a person who will support business and who will walk with you all the way, then you have reached the destination of your search. I don't want to add any more, but I just want to invite my brother, Honorable James Orengo, to say a few words. Yes, yeah, I know. I'm the one who pulled you here. So, thank you, Jim. Thank you. And then you invite one. Thank you. Thank you.
Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, Your Excellencies, the governors, some of the members of Parliament, and senators who are here, the business community, and everybody who has come here on this very great occasion. You would allow me just to mention that there are some senators here who are not introduced. Could you just stand up, Senator Mazayo? I think you are the only one left here. Thank you. I'll also be... Professor Ngeri. I was sitting with Professor Ngeri. How can I forget you? The senior most. I'll be very, very brief. I read somewhere that blessed are the peacemakers, because they shall be called the children of God. President Uhuru Kenyatta, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, you have given us peace in this country, and you are indeed children of God. I also read somewhere that blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. If you thought I didn't know the Bible, there it is. Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta have been condemned for fighting for righteousness' sake, so that Kenya can move forward. We have had great speeches today, and beginning with all the governors. I can tell you, if ever there's been a day I was happy in my life, yesterday. And I just saw part of it because I was not moving from Nanyuki to Githurai. And I was in Gudurai the first time. Yesterday, if you had no eyes to see, then here is the result of that visit to the mountain, 3 days in the mountain. In America now, there's a great debate in the Congress. They are trying to have a major investment into infrastructure. Ever since President Roosevelt, there has been no major infrastructure development in the United States. All of it is aging. It is only in the last 20 years that people have realized the great work that President Roosevelt did. I want to tell this nation that part of the work that has been done in the last 4 years, including the expressway, including opening up the old railway line to Kisumu, to Nyanyuki, what is happening in the field of energy 20, 30 years later is when people realize what President Uhuru has done for this country. And I can tell you, the only person that I think knows what President Uhuru Kenyatta is trying to do to develop our infrastructure to make our country more prosperous is Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. If you want Uhuru's legacy to continue, it will be in the safe hands of Raila Amolo Odinga. And finally, Raila Amolo Odinga knows how governments work when you're committed to it. Kimeme is behind here with me. We were in cabinet. How that cabinet was working. There was never any day that on matters of policy or implementation, once a resolution had been made in cabinet, that you'd find Raila Amolo Odinga and Kibaki fighting in public. Once the resolution was made, it was for implementation. So I hope that in this gathering, when the mountain meets the lake, like Nyokabi said, when the mountain meets the lake, and this is not an exclusive agenda, it's an agenda for the whole country. Kenya is better off for all of us as Kenyans. With those remarks, I now have the privilege of inviting His Excellency the Governor for Kakamega, Wycliffe Ambessa Oparaji.
Your Excellency, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, my colleagues who are here, governors, senators, members of parliament, business people from Mount Kenya, good evening. Najua mmechoka, good evening. Me, I was a visitor. I want to appreciate the invitation of Mount Kenya Foundation. And I happen to be the only governor from outside Mount Kenya. Thank you, Chairman Munga and Chairman Macharia, for that invitation. I accompanied Baba, and I think this is one of the first important meetings that I have ever had since I became member of parliament in the year 2002. As you are aware, we have never worked together all this time. From that time, I became member of parliament for Butere constituency, up to now when I was a governor. it was them versus us. And this issue continued until there was this Nusumukate. When there was Nusumukate government, I caught that opportunity through Raila Odinga to be in the cabinet of Kibaki for 5 years. And that's when I actually worked closer with you. And that's why I respect my deputy here, Peter Kenneth. We worked very closely as my deputy when I was Minister for Planning. But what is important is unity. These issues you have raised here, they are not unique for Mount Kenya only. They are common to all communities in this country. But maybe this is the first time that two major communities are coming together. And you have said, when the mountain and the lake come together, then this country has peace. And I want to applaud Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga for the handshake. To me, it is the handshake that has made me work very closely. Some of us, when Raila went for the handshake, we said he had made a mistake. But we realized he was looking far. And it is through that handshake that we are here. So unity is important. What we are supposed to do is now to sustain that particular unit and have a peaceful election. Some of the problems that you have raised here, devolution was to be a solution. And I can tell you, devolution is working in this country, despite the many challenges that are there. Some of the challenges, we had raised them in the BBI, but unfortunately it came to pass. We hope when we form the next government, we will be able to address some of these issues that were in BBI, because some of those issues were meant to strengthen and sustain devolution in this country. Thank you very much for inviting me once again. And I have heard that you are inviting other leaders from Western Kenya. The people of Western Kenya, we have decided. Whether you invite 100 of them, we have decided where our vote is going. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Governor of Kakamega. Before we invite our chief guest to make, his remarks, and we don't want anybody to talk after him, we just want to recognize the people that he came with, other than the ones who have talked. We have Raila Jr. Just stand up and just, wave once more, Jr. Senator Samson Ongeri, thank you so much, Ambassador. We have Senator Stewart Mansayo. Thank you very much. Let's give them a clap. Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe, is he here with us? And then our own, none other but PK, Peter Kenneth. Thank you very much. Then we have Mheshimiwa Ole Kores. Thank you, Mheshimiwa. We have Sami Wakiaga. Is he with us? Thank you so much, Sami. We have friend Rabongo. Thank you very much. And the last and not the least, my good friend Paul Ngondi. Paul? If Paul is not here, it's because he's a banker, he's conscious about time, so he wants to make money for all of us. So thank you, Paul. We were with him, a little bit earlier. So without much, ado, then I want to ask the governor of Nyandarua, who is the chair of the Council of Governors in the Central Region, to invite our chief guest, please. Do you have the dancers who will be able to usher the speaker to the podium?
So thank you very much. Tupigie MKF makofi. Asanteni sana. It has been a very, very good meeting. I think MKF, congratulations Daktari Munga na Mr. Ibui hapa. Asanteni sana kwa kutualika huu mkutano na SK Macharia. Tumefika kilele cha mkutano wa siku ya leo. Na najua mkiangalia vile tumejipanga hapa, kuna karibu makabila zote za Kenya ziko hapa. Baba Raila Amolo Odinga, from here once we are through with some of the basics, ukienda pahali pengine pia tuite. Hata sisi watu ya mlima Kenya tunataka kuona Kenya ikiwa kitu kimoja. Tuende na wewe, tuende coast, tuende western, tuende mahali pengine pote northeastern Kenya, tuunganishe Kenya iwe kitu kimoja. And we are willing to support you. Tuende hiyo safari, sio tu mlima Kenya na mahali pengine, lakini Kenya mzima, community zote. We would like you to lead that initiative. Tuonekane kwamba hii ni nchi mzima, ni Kenya mzima ambayo inaongea siku ya leo. Si namna hiyo wananchi wetu. So I want to appreciate the business people who are here, all those who have talked, those who have not talked. I know I have a big team from Nyandarua ambao wako hapa. I don't know where they are sitting. Wasinipigia kwamba siku watabu wako hapa, watu wengi sana from Nakuru, all the counties, governors who are here. Tumeleta watu wetu wako hapa, wazee wetu pale nyuma. I want to appreciate you. Hata kama hamkuweza kuongea, lakini I know we are together with you. Tuwapige makofi. The elders who are making peace, continue to make peace in the countryside and making sure that this country doesn't go to the dogs. We want to appreciate you. And those who made us, Kina Kaguthi, Joseph Kaguthi, those who trained us and made us what we are when we joined the public service. Mount Kenya, Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga would like to be in the government. And I'm sure we shall join you in forming the next government as we move on. Sasa nataka tuite Mr. Kamoko na Gatutura. These are famous musicians. And do you know they are from Nyandarua County? Kuna pia wazee wetu hapa ambao wamejiandaa. So nimeambiwa ili tualike Mheshimiwa Prime Minister, Executive Prime Minister, tutaimbiwa ile wimbo ya Kirinyaga, na nasikia hiyo wimbo Mheshimiwa Raila, kwa sababu ulipanda mlima jana, tutaimba vile umekaa umeangalia mlimani. Kwa hivyo tutaimba kwa hapo tukiangalia mlimani Kenya, then tukualike hapa uje usalimie wananchi wa Kenya. Kwa hivyo tusimame zote tuimbiwe hiyo wimbo wa Mwenenyaga, tuendelee mbele.
Nada
Haya, tumpigie mheshimiwa makofi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Asante, asante, asante sana.
Haya. Haya. Andu wakwa Murega. Murega rengi. Asanteni sana. Tumekaa tunakuwa tunashangilia, tunaangalia milima. Na mimi hapa chini nimeangalia, nimeona nyuso mingi zaidi ambayo mimi najua. Karibu kila meza nikihesabu hapa najua watu hapo. Kwa hiyo mimi najihisi niko nyumbani. Nataka kuanza kutoa shukrani kwa viongozi wa Mount Kenya Foundation kwa juhudi ambayo wamefanya kuleta sisi pamoja. Hii sasa ni mara ya pili, karibu mara 3 ambayo wameandaa karamu kama hii, na tukapata fursa ya kuonana na marafiki yetu na ndugu zetu kutoka Mlima Kenya. Mwezi mmoja na kitu iliyopita tulikuwa hapa na viongozi kutoka Mlima Kenya ya Mashariki, na tukasherekea hapa, tukala, tukanyweshwa mpaka tukashiba. Na tena sasa wameamua wakaturudisha tena hapa. Mimi natoa shukrani kubwa sana kwao kwa kufanya haya. So but I'm happy to be among friends here and patriotic Kenyans, listening to those who have spoken here before me, or say that all of them are people who have got the interest of this country at heart. I'm not going to respond to all the issues that have been raised. Some of them are issues which I've already covered extensively in some of the policy statements that I've issued. As you will have noticed, every Sunday I come up, I take a particular subject, and I put my views about it, and I release it for discussions. So I expect to get reactions from people that when we prepare our final manifesto, all those issues have been discussed and have been agreed on. Just to talk briefly about the mountain. Nilikuwa juzi, I was invited by the governor of Laikipia to go to Laikipia. Before that, I'd been invited by the governor of Nakuru. That's where I went to Nakuru, and that's where I launched the Azimio ya Umoja wa Kenya. And after that, last week we were getting back in Nakuru with him. We had the funeral of a friend of ours. Then again I went to, on a Saturday, I was in Elementaita, where I met a group of religious leaders at a conference. They're called the Israeli Churches of Kenya, which includes the Akorino, also Lady Maria, and several other churches. And then from there I flew over the Nyandarua plains and the Happy Valley. The colony is called the Happy Valley, into Laikipia. And there in Laikipia, we had a good discussion with my friend, the governor of Laikipia, and I was very impressed by the kind of work he's doing for his county. But before I come there, this region here, this is a very unique region of Kenya. And I gave a story when I was there, how the settlers came to our country. That there was the Lord Delamere who had come on a horseback. He went through the Horn of Africa, then through Somali. He was riding on a horse and came through Mount Kenya. And then he came from there down towards Nairobi, then passed and went through Nyahururu, then went down to Thompson Falls. He went to Naivasha, Gilgil, Nakuru, Elbagon, Njoro, Molo, up to Eldoret, Kitale, up to Mount Elgon, and was very impressed by what he saw. So when he came back and had discussions with the colonial government, I said that this is a very rich highland which is ripe for large-scale farming. The railway line has been constructed. It was then called the Lunatic Express. But for this railway line to be viable and repay back the investment, you need to have large-scale agriculture, so that when the trains come and go to the west, on the way back to the port, they will have things to carry back. The colonial government agreed. Then he told them that he can go back to England and bring settlers who can come and introduce large-scale agriculture. But for him to do that, he said he needed to be assured that anybody he brought here will be given 10,000 acres free, and free black laborers. The colonial government agreed. He exacted that agreement. So armed with that agreement, he went back to England to recruit settlers. He had town hall meetings in London, in Manchester, in Birmingham, in Liverpool, telling them that, look, down there, you have a land that is flowing with milk and honey, manna. And anybody who agrees to come will get 10,000 acres free with the black laborers. But at that time, the story about Africa was very negative. Oh, bilharzia, malaria, wild natives. So nobody wanted to come to Africa. So in frustration, he got very few who wanted to come. In frustration, he came back. When he came back, he decided to try down south. So he sailed, went on a ship from Mombasa to Durban. In Durban, he addressed a town hall meeting. From there, he went Port Elizabeth, East London, Cape Town, Kimberley, Joburg. There he found Wazungus who had lived in Africa for generations and who did not fear Africa. Some of them were actually workers or laborers in other few white-owned farms. So the prospect of owning their own farm was very appealing. So they quickly agreed. Most of them from South Africa and from what was called Rhodesia, Southern Rhodesia. That's how we ended up with the Kaburus here. When they came, they were given land from Timau, from those other sides on Kenya East, all the way to Kitale, Mount Elgon, those sides. That is what became known as the White Highlands. That is how the people of all this region were deprived of their land. How they were deprived of their land. So now the Africans were being conscripted to work. There was what they call agreement. You sign an agreement to go and work in those farms. And you'll have to work for at least 6 months. Firstly, but if you absconded, they will come and look for you right home and arrest you. And you'll be taken to prison. So that is how the people of this region were deprived of their land. And that is really the background. Most of those who came here were said illiterate or semi-illiterate. They were just thumb printing. They're very ruthless, the natives. They call the niggers. So the niggers were completely deprived people. I will come back to that subject later. But that is how we came to be what we were. And you find a place like Nyahururu, there's a place they call the Happy Valley, where they're doing all sorts of things. But what attracted them was that the land was good for agriculture. No wonder even till today, agriculture is still a major occupation in that area. But because the land had been taken away, that's where the people from those areas started very early trading. Because most of the land were taken away, some of them were taken into emergency villages and so on and so forth. And that is how that culture of trade started. So agriculture is the main occupation. They grow tea, those are the cash crops. Coffee, you've got vegetables, you've got flowers. There used to be pyrethrum, which is limping now. Fruits, milk is another one. You know, the Laikipia, that name comes from the Maasai clan of Laikipia, the ones who remained. But then a big part of it is Plateau. And Wazungus wanted to introduce large-scale ranching. So the agreement they signed with the Lenana to get the Maasais out over there. And around Naivasha there, they put a 10-mile corridor. Because they had already introduced the hybrid cows. Yeah, so they say the Maasai, 10-mile corridor for the Maasai to pass with their Shenzi Ngombes, to go down to Narok and Kajiado. But then the people in these areas are basically, in the rural areas, are farmers. And but in order for this to be sustainable, you need first to deal with the issues of inputs. Here, the seeds, the fertilizers, and the pesticides are some of the things, the major inputs that you need to look at to make this thing viable. Secondly, you need to look at issues of access to the market, and then the issues of pricing, which actually depends on supply and demand. Then when I was there, and the governor, he arranged for me to meet with the traders. You see, these traders, the MSMEs, the small and medium enterprises. And he has done a wonderful job in promoting these micro, small, and medium enterprises. They are big, as he already told you the figures. And it's empowering them, giving them access to capital, and also helping them access the markets. So I was very impressed by the degree of innovation by those young Kenyans, the kind of machinery that they produce. They find, for example, a machine that is being used to recycle plastic waste and to make cabros out of the plastic waste, and several other building materials are made out of it. Cattle feeds and things like that, so many other things. So I was very, very impressed. So there's really no need to invent the wheel. We know that these SMEs can eventually grow and become bigger enterprises. I told him that, I am an engineer by profession, and I gave them examples of how many of these enterprises started as very small enterprises. I gave them the example of called Karl-Heinz Benz. He was an engineer doing experiments with first two-stroke, then a four-stroke cylinder engine. He developed it, then eventually built a chassis, put it on the chassis, and put a transmission system so that it could convert the motion from the engine to the wheels. And then it started driving it. It was and people feared it. He asked people to come on with him. When he was doing the first experiment, nobody wanted. Eventually, his 17-year-old daughter agreed to go with the daddy. And they rode for 35 kilometers, then installed. They later on named that model after his daughter, who had agreed to risk her life to go with him. The daughter was called Mercedes. That is the story of Mercedes-Benz. The man was called Karl-Heinz Benz. But that's why sometimes we call it Mercedes-Benz. The daughter was called Mercedes. And eventually now Mercedes became a household name. The same thing when Mercedes was doing, Benz was doing the experiment in Germany. Next to him, not far away, another person was also doing experiment. It was called Daimler. Eventually, Daimler and Benz came together. That's why sometimes it's called Daimler-Benz. But at the same time, also Mr. Henry Ford, on the other side of Atlantic, was also doing experiments with a four-cylinder engine. He did the same thing like what Benz had done and put it on a chassis. Again, nobody wanted. He called it Ford T model. Nobody wanted to get into it. Women were quoted as saying that those crazy contraptions of Mr. Ford, no way. I'm safer on a horseback any day. People preferred the horse to the car. But eventually, that one of Mr. Ford also became now an international model. Mr. Toyota was repairing bicycles. Then he went into the scooter, assembling parts to make a scooter, which became the motorbike for women. Then he went to the motorbike. Eventually, he went to a four-stroke cylinder engine, which became then Toyota. And when Toyota was made in those days, nobody wanted to buy Toyotas. When I was studying in Germany, Japanese cars were banned, that they did not meet the German safety standards. The first Toyota that were brought in this country were lying in the warehouses here. Nobody was buying them. Till they went and convinced two politicians, Dr. Gikonyo Kiano and Mr. Joseph Murumbi. They gave them free cars to drive so people could trust. And that's how they managed to enter this market here. Today, Toyota is a household name internationally, all over the world. I was telling them also that when we were going to school, anything Japanese was known as inferior in quality. There was a cloth. If they made you a uniform with that cloth, which is called Japan, fellow children in school would laugh at you. We went about to Japan. You had to wear Stackford from England. Now, made in Japan is seen as high quality. So I was encouraging these people to say that we can also do it here. We don't need to be ashamed of what is made here in Kenya. And we also don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know where we're coming from. In the days of colonialism, Africans were excluded from economic activities of our country. We are running a segregated society. There was a Mzungu, there was a Muhindi, then there was a Marabu, and then the African was down there, the lad. So if you are found with 100 shilling notes, you'll be arrested. Umeiba wapi? Come Africa. So when independence came, the government came up with policies to mainstream Africans into the economy. Now they came up with a policy called Africanization. Africanization was meant to help Africans to participate effectively in the economy of this country. They set up institutions, the ICDC, Industrial and Commercial Development Corporation, the KNTC, the Kenya National Trading Corporation. These institutions were tasked with the responsibility of giving Africans capital, loan, so that they could be able to participate meaningfully in the economy. Later on, Africanization was blamed as being racist. That was discriminating against other races. So it was changed to Kenyanization. Then the government came up with a policy of to take over, retail businesses. That if you are not a Kenyan citizen, you were not allowed to engage in retail businesses. You could be in manufacturing, wholesale, but retail businesses could only be done by native Africans. That is the time, and that's when now, because there were some Indians. In colonial days, we were all British subjects. Kenyan citizenship was created at independence. And the Indians who had been brought as coolies here were given the option of either becoming Kenyan citizens or retaining their British citizenship. Most of them retained British citizenship. They were told that if you're not a Kenyan citizen, you cannot be engaged in retail businesses. And that is how Africans began to buy some of those Indian businesses, getting loans from KNTC and from ICDC. Then they also set up institutions here, like Kenya Industrial Estates was set up to help Africans to get into manufacturing. And that is how I myself became a beneficiary of the KIE process. I got a loan from ICDC to start my business. But how did I do it? I was then a teacher at the University of Nairobi, and there we had a technician who was an Indian called I.G. Desai. So one day I.G. Desai came to me and told me that, there is a Kalasinga who has been chased away from Uganda by Idi Amin, and he had a workshop in Jinja, and he has uprooted the machinery and he has brought them here. They are somewhere in a house in Parklands. He's trying to sell because he's going to UK. And he was an electrical engineer. I cannot do anything with them, but you are a mechanical one. I think you can make use of them. So he took me to this Indian place in Parklands. And when I looked at those machinery, there was sheet metal working machines, the guillotine, there was the lathe machine, the milling machines, the welding sets, and so on. I said, yeah, these are good machines. He was selling them for 12,000 shillings. I didn't have. My salary was 2,000 shillings a month. So, but I had a car I'd brought back from Germany, a left-hand drive Opel Kadett, which I sold, and I got the money to pay the Kalasinga. That became my staging capital. Then I took this machinery, and I went and hired a workshop on then called Kingston Road. It's now called Kampala Road in the industrial area. And then started making ideal casements, doors and windows and all those things. I managed to get Kenyans who had also been sent away from Uganda, highly skilled manpower, whom I employed. That is how I started. Then eventually, I was enabled, I managed to get an order from an oil company, Egypt, to manufacture for them some cylinders, LPG cylinders for gas. And after that, I met another German who was, the German government had come up here to help Kenya set up Kenya Industrial Estates. Kenya Industrial Estates was meant to help Africans get into manufacturing. So when I met this German, he came and looked at what I was having. And then he said, look, we are trying to make industries out of laymen. Here's somebody who knows what he's doing. This project of yours qualifies for funding under the KIE. And that is how I went now to the Kenya Industrial Estates as an expansion project. And I got a loan to now buy modern machinery and begin modern manufacturing. The rest is history, is history now. Why am I saying this story? I'm just trying to say that the government at that time was committed to helping Africans. There was deliberate effort at that time to help Africans come up in businesses. And by the time the first regime was ending, obviously, there was an emergent African middle class in manufacturing, in banking, in insurance, and so on. These were basically killed later on through wrong policies and also the pressures from IMF and World Bank, liberalization, that killed very many businesses. But there was also an effort to try to promote foreign as opposed to local investment. So we've seen what wrong policies can do to a country. You know how and the consequences of those wrong policies. Because under the first regime of Kenyatta, we created a middle class, a national bourgeois class was emerging. When the change came, they promoted what you call comprado class, briefcase businessmen. Those who stand between capital. I'm the one who knows so and so, who knows so and so, who knows so and so. You want to register a company, a license. You want a manufacturing license. You need export license. Foreign exchange, you need license. So there are these briefcase people who they're the ones who know so and so, who will give you this and that and that and that. That is what happened. So local manufacturing, local economy was killed for 24 years. 24 years. When we came into government with Kibaki, we decided to change it. We came up to, we found almost a bankrupt treasury. And we decided to change it. And create an economy that was growing. The growth was negative when we came into government. We found the government was collecting 300 billion shillings. But then it was a 500 billion shilling economy. The rest was coming from foreign donors all the times. Then we realized that, look, there was under collection because of corruption. Under corruption. You find those who are involved with revenue raising were so corrupt. The revenue officers, the procurement officers, those are the boys in town. They're the ones driving the latest model of cars, the one buying apartment blocks in town, the ones who are building castles in rural areas, the ones who are building high-rise buildings in village markets. So we said we do lifestyle audit. And we got all of them and removed them from the system. And we brought in the right people. Within no time, revenue shot up. We did not have to raise taxes. We retained them, but the revenue shot from 300 billion to 750 billion. We went to 900. On the third year, we had reached a 1 trillion shilling budget. I remember John Michuki coming to Kibaki and saying, Mr. President, we are having for the first time a 1 trillion shilling budget. And I was Minister for Roads. When we went in there, I came up with a road construction program throughout the country. I traveled all over the country looking at the roads. I found that there were 9,000 kilometers of tarmac roads in the country, but 46% of it was dilapidated. So I said, I need money to repair what has been left neglected, at the same time to construct new ones. I did not have the money, so I need more money. And I appealed for more money. The opposition, but Dr. Muhisa Kitui in the cabinet told them that, look, if you want to have an impact in this government, let's give Raila more money. So let us slash 5% from each budget and put it in roads. Then we will have the impact. It was resolved, and that's how I got the money and started doing the roads. So we planned, you will have seen the roads around the country. You will look at the bypasses in this city. When I was knocking them down, knocking houses which had been built on the bypasses, I was being accused. Raila is targeting Kikuyu property. They want to impoverish the Kikuyus and so on. I said, no, we want to decongest the city center. And I was accused in the cabinet. I explained that, look, I told the chairman, Mr. President, these road reserves were declared as road reserves and gazetted in 1971. I came up with the gazette notices, and these people were compensated. But because no roads were constructed, they went and again and constructed, although they had been paid money by the government. But Mr. President, what we want to do is to decongest the city center. The Uhuru Highway is a major barrier. Most of the traffic on Uhuru Highway is transit traffic from south to west and vice versa, or east to west. This traffic has no business in the city center. So if we build the bypasses, the traffic from Mombasa going to Western Kenya, Nakuru, Kisumu, Kampala, Rwanda, Burundi, and DRC will not need to come in through the city center, and eastern bypass, and then the northern bypasses, and the link road. Then Kibaki says, kama watu wamejenga kwa barabara, ibomolewe. Oh yes, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? So Kibaki supported me. So I want you to know that we worked very closely with Mwai Kibaki. The border people, were discussions with them. In fact, they came to see me. I know their problem, and I also know the solution to their problem. And we've discussed it. Also, I've talked of SMEs and those who depend on importation of goods and so on. I know their problems that they're going through. I had an occasion to talk to them 2 weeks ago. And I promised that what they were requesting I was going to convey, and I've already conveyed it to the President. But going forward, we need to promote our own. We need to look at value addition. There are a lot of goods that we're producing here, but then we're exporting raw materials. We need to do value addition to our raw materials before we export them. And also, instead of importing, we need to promote more and more local manufacturing. This is the key to economic takeoff. If you go this day to the industrial area, what used to be manufacturing companies producing goods which were employing 300, 500 people have been turned into warehouses, storing containers from China. We are exporting labor to China, and we're having 39% of our workforce, our eligible people, are unemployed. Because we have exported our labor to China. If you take the textile industry, We used to have Rivertex in Eldoret, Kikomi in Kisumu, Raymond in Nakuru, Mountex in Nanyuki, and even thicker, Titex. All that is gone. So now we are basically depending on Mitumba. We can have tailoring businesses here, making goods which can be sold locally. So the people who are just selling Mitumba can actually get involved in selling the goods which are made in Kenya. This is another way of developing our country. Then, but let me talk about the youth. Because the youth are the engine of growth of an economy. I say the youth are the flowers of an economy or a country. But I also tell them that, the difference between the young and the aged is just one. That the aged were one time young, so they know what it means to be a youth. But the youth have never been old, so they don't know what it means to be old. The difference between them is what is called experience, which is very important. We need experience. But we need to empower our youth. They have already said that 75% of our population is below the age of 35. That can be either a blessing or a curse, depending on how you look at it. If you do not empower that youth, they become delinquents, drug addicts, criminals, and therefore they are a drag on society. But if they imparted the requisite skills, then they become a motive force for growth and development. You are talking about the illicit drinks still being brewed. If there are no customers, they will not have a market, those people brewing it. So if those youth were empowered, will not go and drink those dirty things. They will go for good things. They'll be looking at 17-year-old or 18-year-old, how do they call them? 18-year-olds, Glenfiddich. But because that is what they can afford, that's why they go for it, and healthy for them. So the most important thing is to empowering the youth. And this requires that we change gear. We look at how we empower our youth right from the nursery school, primary school, secondary, tertiary education, and high school and university. So that the youth are imparted with the skills. Because if you do that, then they become a motive force for growth and development. This is what a country like China has done. China invested money in skills development. They trained a highly skilled young force. So at the time they liberalized their economy, they became a very attractive investment destination. People were rushing to China because people are skilled and labor is cheap there in China. So China became, all of a sudden, the factory of the world. Most of manufacturing companies moved to China. Samsung, LG, you come to Ford, Mercedes, Peugeot, Volvo, BMW, Toyota, Hyundai, they're all there in China. They manufacture in China and then export. You'll be surprised that at DTW you're buying a Mercedes-Benz, you think it's coming from Germany, this is coming from China. In Germany, they tell me that, look, it is cheaper to manufacture a Mercedes-Benz in China, ship it back to Germany, than the one that is made in Stuttgart. So, but in that period, 30 years, China managed to move 300 million people from poverty to middle income status. China today has got the biggest middle income population in the world. But China is no longer the cheapest destination. As the society has become more and more affluent, a gap has developed down there because they become more and more expensive. A gap which is down there is a gap which a country like Kenya can fill. And we fill it by investing in skills development, requisite skills. I was telling people sometimes today that you have today so many of the people in our labor force working with certificates, qualified degrees. Then there are very many other investors who have come here looking for people to employ, but they're not getting right people to employ. In other words, the skills that we have do not match the demand of the market. I mean, it's a location. So somebody is running around here, I've got a degree in public relations. The other one, I don't know, I got a degree in, there's some very funny professions, and here that somebody has got a degree in those. So there's no company that is needing those sort of people. So we need to align our training to the demands of the market. So now the women, our women folk, is again our major resource in the country. We cannot develop without empowering our women. A country where only 1/2 of the population is working cannot expect to compete with a country where the 100% of the population is working. Because the women become a drag to society. Women don't want to be dependent on you as a husband. Women are people who are capable and able to work on their own. So we empower women to make them equal to our men, so that they become partners in our society. This is what we want. They mentioned a number of things which affect society generally. They talked about water. It also affects men. But most of the times, in many societies, women are the ones who have to go to fetch it from very far away. You need that water for food consumption, you need water for irrigation, and that you invest in harvesting. There are many parts of the country where you find drought. But when it rains, there's a lot of flooding, and that water gets wasted. It's allowed to run into rivers, rivers take it to the sea, which does not need water. The sea does not need water. So we harvest that water and keep it for our people. And we can do it. It can be done with proper determination and proper investment. So we will empower our women properly so that they can. And security. There can be no development in a country without security. This goes without saying. But each and every Kenyan is equal. No people of Kenya live here at the invitation of any other community. Kenya is ours as of right. So the government must protect each and every Kenyan. Every life matters. You are the governor of Laikipia's talk. What's happening? Those are the sort of things which you just look at, you expect to see in a primitive society, not a civilized society. So those are the kind of things that we first and foremost we must get rid of and ensure that they don't happen, and each and every Kenyan has a right to live in any part of the country, own property, and invest there. I was being told that I was yesterday with some people from Kitale, and they're saying that they fear to invest there because there are all the times a constant threat that you can be evicted any time. Those are things that we don't want to hear. Either you are a Kikuyu, a Mukamba, a Mkalenjin, a Mjikenda, a Mturkana, Mjaluo, you can live and work in any part of this country by right. Those we will deal with. So let me say this now, finally. Peace, as I've mentioned, is very important. And you know, we are coming from a state of insecurity, of a crisis. Following the elections, the Supreme Court nullified the elections, ordered a repeat. We refused to go for a repeat because the IEBC refused to meet conditions well set. Then, you know what happened? President Uhuru was sworn in. We also took an oath. Then, what now? Positions falls apart. My people said, now that you have been sworn in, let us now declare our sovereignty. Let us first take all the portraits of the president in all the public buildings in our strongholds, heap them and burn them, and declare our sovereignty and begin to collect taxes. I saw that this is taking Kenya to Somalia, because we will start a conflict that can be very bloody. You remember that time already? We said no Safaricom, no Brookside, no Virco. Then, on the other hand, the people of President Uhuru told him that what Raila has done is treason. Let us arrest him, charge him with prison, hang him, mambo ikwishe. He also saw that would create a terrible crisis. So it is under those circumstances that we met to talk. And we talked for a long time. The first time we talked for 13 hours, non-stop, from 2 p.m. to 3 a.m. Then we adjourned. 2 days later we met again for 6 hours. So a total of 19 hours of talking. Because when we first met, we were just looking at each other. At you called me a drunkard, you called me this and that. I said, but you also called me Kimodo Muguruki. So, after hedging more than an hour, nearly 2 hours, we now sat down to talk seriously. And we took a journey down the memory lane to where we started. Some of it he does not know. Buru has told you how Mzee Kenyatta came to Kisumu. First, when we were toddlers in 48, he came again in 49. Then he came again. What we remember faintly is 1952. You can remember a bearded person there with a very deep voice talking. And after that, he was gone. Oneko used to live with us in the same block. Then all of a sudden he was gone. The children remained, so we were playing with his children. And then now people would assemble in our house in the evening, and Mzee would be talking about our people. And Kenyatta's name was always there. That was the state of emergency period. Until then, Mzee Jaramogi became a member of Legico. And then, because he was all the time teaching people about how the Kikuyus are our people. Because those days, the life was very bad. They're out there in the island of the lake. There's an island called Mageta. The Mau were kept there. And they would be taken during the day by boat to come on land to work on road construction, then taken back. Kina Mzee Baruru Kanja were detained there. And they are being kept there because the lake water is very deep there. And if you can swim, there's a lot of crocodiles. You will talk to those crocodiles. This is the time when they killed Mzungu, who was looking after them when they were working. This Mzungu, his skin had some black spots, like that fish called kamongo. So the Luos called him kamongo. When he went there, they conspired and he was killed. The two people hit him with shovels, and then they escaped. Then when they escaped, that's when we now saw the small planes coming around, looking around because they were searching for them. And the GSU were also brought to look for them, those prisoners. Then the radio was announcing all the times ati Wakikuyu, Wameru na Waembu ni watu hatari. Ukiona yeyote karibu, piga ripoti kwa polisi mara moja. That was being repeated on radio every morning, during the daytime, the evening, at that time. Then I remember how Jaramogi was telling the people that these people are our brothers and sisters. And those people who had escaped were helped by the population. They escaped into Busia and into Uganda. They were never found. So we know where we're coming from. And these are some of the issues that we talked about. How life was very bad. The Kikuyus were being arrested and taken to emergency villages and so on, and the Mau-Maus were taken to Hola, Manyani, and so on. Then the Jaramogi in Legico stood up and talked. When the motion had been brought when Mau-Maus had been beaten in the Hola detention camp and killed. Then Jaramogi, who was the chairman of the African elected members, called a meeting, and they agreed that the motion should be moved in Parliament to discuss the issue. So when Jaramogi stood to speak, he said, Mr. Speaker, in the heart of hearts of the African people, Jomo Kenyatta and all those who were detained with him were and are the true leaders. And their continued detention offends the consciousness of our people. Jeremiah Nyaga, who was in the house there, would tell us, he used to tell us, you could have had a pin drop when Jaramogi uttered those words. Because those days, if you mention the word Kenyatta, ndani. Then Africans, all the other members of Legic who were there, disowned Jaramogi. They were 14. Only Masinde Muliro supported him. But Jaramogi challenged Kianu, who was a member for Fort Hall, to go for a public rally in Fort Hall, now Murang'a, to ask the people between him and Kianu who was right. Kianu feared. But then the people of Murang'a, Fort Hall, issued a statement saying they support Jaramogi. The people of Kisumu also said they support Jaramogi. Then after that, when now the crescendo started, then these people also now turned and they come to say Uhuru na Kenyatta. You're saying Uhuru first, you get Uhuru, then we release Kenyatta. Uhuru na Kenyatta. Jaramogi said it's not Uhuru na Kenyatta, it is Kenyatta na Uhuru. First. So you see, I know where we are coming from. I carry this pass here. This pass is called Kikuyu Embu Meru Passbook. This was the passbook that people had to carry if you are Kikuyu, Meru, or Embu during the state of emergency. It's written here, Simon Barorwa, son of Ngugi, tribe Kikuyu, location Gatanga, chief Ndungu, sublocation Regeta, occupation clerk, age 29 years. And then it says this movement permit from, that you need to put there, to, via, and then valid between, this and, movement permit register entry number, issued at, and so on. You must have this to be able to move at that time. This is where we are coming from. So we discussed, and then we said, but Africans came together, united. There was no Kikuyu, there was no Nini, because to Mzungu, you are just a bloody African. In the hotels like Norfolk, New Stanley, New Avenue, there were signs written there that Africans and dogs are not allowed. That's where we are coming from. But the unity of our people got Mzungu out. But after that, then we split. The split of the nationalist movement, because they need to know that Mugai Njenga was telling you about Kanu and Kadu. Kanu was the nationalist movement, Kadu was actually stooges of the settlers. So you need to know how the independence came. It's just unity of the people, these communities, that brought independence in this country. In 1961, there was an election which was done. Kanu won the elections. Kanu lost, but Kanu refused to form the government without Kenyatta. And Kadu agreed to go into coalition with the settlers. That's how you come. People like Gala, like Nyayo and so on, were ministers before independence. That's what most people have not understood. Okay? But then, when the final elections came in 1963, Kanu won convincingly. And we got independence at that time. And Mzee became the prime minister. The differences were over the issue of land. I mentioned to you about those settlers. When independence was coming, they said they cannot live under the rule of natives, Africans. So they wanted their land, their farms to be bought. Then the government did not have money. So the British government came up with a loan to the Kenya government to be used to buy out those farms, outgoing farmers. That's where there was a disagreement between the nationalist movement, KANU. Because there are those who agreed, just buy, take the money and buy land from them. And those who said, no, where should we buy our own land? They took it for free, they farmed it for 60 years. If anything, they are the ones who should pay us something. So this is the need here. The group who agreed to buy was led by Mboya, there was Kiano, there was Gichuru, there was Jonjo on one side. The one that said no was led by Jaramogi, Bildad Kagia, Paul Ngei, J.D. Kali, and Oneko. That was what brought the difference between Jaramogi. Mzee was that time between the two. Mzee was akienda pande hii niko na nyinyi. Akienda pande hii niko na nyinyi. He didn't know how to handle those differences. Until the settlers invited him to Nakuru for a meeting. And that is what compromised everything. The rest is history. Okay? So we agreed with Uhuru that you can bring this country back to where we started and unite the people of this country. So if you stand that side and I stand this side, you can shake hands and we can bring the Kenya back, the Kenya that the founding fathers wanted. And we agreed. That's the meaning of the handshake. So I said, the founding fathers had a dream for this country, which are called the Kenyan dream. And you find it in our national anthem stanza, first stanza. Lord of all creation, bless this land of ours. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders. Okay? The most important. Plenty be found. That plenty was not going to drop like manna from heaven. It was going to come through the sweat and toil of our people. Create a condition through which they can create wealth so that plenty is found within our borders. And in the Bible, a country where the plenty is found is called what? It's called what? So it's not Raila who is saying it. That's what the founding fathers wanted. They wanted us to turn this country into a Canaan, isn't it? Isn't it? So I want to paraphrase to you. We are with Kibaki, we are set down with our think tank, the national community, and coined what we call Vision 2030. It was aimed at transforming this country from a third world economy to a middle income status by the year 2030, meaning 9 years from today. Okay? 9 years from today. And we came up with how to do it. It was based on social, economic, and political pillars. And we came up with the flagship projects. SGR, LAPSET, SEZs, the tourist resort cities, the ICT city in Konza, and so on and so forth. And there's so many other programs that and if you follow it properly, we can transform this country. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We know very clearly where we want to go. We have a very clear roadmap to get there. But you cannot get there with the level of corruption we're having today in this country. cannot get there that way. So that's why I say I have a dream that one day we shall get there. But I want to paraphrase Martin Luther King. I want to say one day that I've been to the mountaintop. I've been to the Lenana Point. I've been to Nana Top. I've seen the glory land. I've seen the glory land. And I am convinced that together we can get there. We shall get there. Thank you. I rest my case.
May I invite all the directors of MKF, please. We want to give a small gift of appreciation to our chief guest, led by our chairman. Directors of MKF, please come to the podium. Directors of MKF. From here, Your Excellency, we'll just give a vote of thanks by Henry Njoroge, one of the directors, and then we have the final prayer. So, directors of MKF, Bishop Gashara, you come forward and say our final prayer for us. Thank you. Directors of MKF.
Right, before you go, please settle down. We want to say the final words, please. Okay. This will be very, very quick. So please give me just 1 minute.